Another thing is, don't think that because you are good at grammar and you might have been spelling bee champion sometime in school or so, you're good at grammar and spelling, that you're okay. You are not okay. You have been working with the same document for weeks, days, maybe months or years even for some, and you need that pair of fresh eyes.
Welcome to day 2 of our Caribbean Authorpreneur Summit. We are continuing to showcase our approved publishing services providers. And today I'm excited about the publishing service provider that I am about to introduce. If you have been listening to my podcast, she is the voice at the end of the podcast each episode. And she also was part of my publishing team for my first book. And so I believe that God has connected us, and I'm excited to have this talk today with my friend, Tamara Francis. She's from Jamaica and is an educator, editor, proofreader, book formatter, and voiceover artist for over 15 years. She's a jack of all trades, right? Like myself, she's a trained teacher. She has taught English language, English literature, Spanish, and English as a second language, as well as adult literacy. Tamara's heart for people, love of service, and belief in volunteerism led her to accept God's call to engage in missions for many years, both locally in Jamaica with the Jamaica Baptist Union Mission Agency and overseas with Operation Mobilization, where she served in 30 countries. And that's another thing that we both have in common. We both served with Operation Mobilization. Tamara is the editor of the children's publications at Caribbean Christian Publications, where she has edited and proofread hundreds of manuscripts, including Sunday school and vacation Bible school material. Currently, she also works with new authors, and she has edited a number of books for me. Her editing is across genres. So she does works of fiction and nonfiction, and she formats them as well. And she does poetry, and she's able to edit both in English and Jamaican language. At one point, Tamara was a broadcaster. She hosted a program on the Breath of Change, TBC Radio in Jamaica. And she has also narrated mini documentaries for OM ships. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Tammy.
Thanks, Kamika. Nice to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you. So we have heard from your bio that you're eminently qualified, but let's go back a bit. What led you on this path to education and books? How did it all begin for you?
Well, for education, it was, I don't know, I just always wanted to be in education from I was a child. I changed at one point and decided to do accounting, to study accounting, but then I realized it was not for me. I didn't have the satisfaction I felt dealing with numbers as I do dealing with words. So I had language, so I went back to education. Went to teachers college, but the main inspiration and influence for that was my mom. She was a teacher and a principal. I think I developed the love from her. Another thing was that most times when we got gifts, it was books, so we were a family who read alone and together. And so I think that developed something in me for teaching others and reading and the value of language and words. And then I moved from that into the area of publishing. Also, my mother did that as well. And so she was influenced there as well. But it was more because I was encouraged to do so, to use what I had learned as a teacher. And just, the truth is, I found myself sometimes reading. I don't know if other people have this experience, but sometimes you're reading a book and you're kind of correcting it in your head, or you're reading something somebody else writes. I'm not sure if I should say that, and so on. And so friends and family thought that it was something that I could do. And And I considered it because, instead of critiquing, let's help people to put out their books at a certain quality. So it all came together.
I love that. And that is one way you can decipher if proofreading or editing is for you. If you find yourself reading books and thinking, I would have said this better, or I would have said this another way, that to me is a sign that you have an eagle eye and you have a knack for proofreading and editing. So yes, that comment is valid. So Tammy, as an author looking for a proofreader, formatter, voiceover person, or just anybody that you're going to hire, because very often when we are paying to publish and we're just starting out as self-published authors or independent authors, we don't have the cash. So we want to go to Fiverr or Upwork or other places where we can find some affordable options. And then when we get there, we see a sea of freelancers to choose from. Let's take it bit by bit. What are the things that we ought to look for when we seek to hire persons with skills such as yours and other freelancers to get our book published or to assist in any of those areas that we need as part of the publishing process?
First of all, what do you know? Where is the level of knowledge? You have written a book or you have written some parts of a book. What kind of editing do you need? Do you know? Are you aware of the different types of editing? Have you done any research? Have you asked somebody for guidance in that area? Try to have some kind of, you're not going to know everything, because that's why you're hiring other people. But just so you can at least have a conversation with the person you're hiring or seeking to hire to let them know, okay, this is what I know, this is what I don't know, this might be what I need, that sort of thing. Because there are different types of editing. And it's good. So it's good for the author to know, okay, maybe this one needs, I only have a few paragraphs, but I want somebody to look at it before I write the rest. So that would be more of a developmental type of editing. Or I just need basic punctuation. I had somebody do a deep edit before. Now I need a proofreader, that sort of thing. Where are you in the process? And one other thing, and this is very important, how sentimental or how attached are you to what you have written, right? And I think you know that as an author too. How attached are you to what you have written? This is good to ask yourself because you have to be open. You have to be open to critique, to corrections, to questions that we might be asking, editors, whoever might be asking, encouraging you to make certain amendments. Because a good editor would want to review your work in a manner that will help you communicate better while maintaining your voice. So it's not that we're trying to take away who you are from the page or even your style or your unique voice, because everybody has their voice, although it's print. We're not trying to take that away. We're just trying to help you produce better work, to have better results. And so you want to look for an editor who will work with you. But you also want to be open and be flexible and be open to receiving the kind of correction that an honest editor will give, a thorough editor will give, yes? And so just be open about that. Don't take it personally. It's not personal. It's not an attack against you or your writing or your capabilities or your gift, but we're just trying to help you move it along and have it published at a particular standard. Another thing is, don't think that because you are good at grammar and you might have been spelling bee champion sometime in school or so, you're good at grammar and spelling, that you're okay. You are not okay. You have been working with the same document for weeks, days, maybe months or years even for some, and you need that pair of fresh eyes. You always need somebody else to look and to see what you might not have picked up because you have been there with this manuscript all along. When you're looking at something for too long, you miss things. And there's always another way or something to improve, something to help you communicate better. And so look for that person who is willing to help you with that. So don't think, oh, I'm good at grammar, nobody can tell me, I didn't miss anything, and you put it out. Have that pair of fresh eyes. Good for you if they don't find much. Still have another pair of eyes, look at it. Don't be afraid to ask questions, especially at the beginning. We won't get annoyed. Just ask the questions that you need to, and be honest. Be honest about your knowledge. Be honest about where you are in the process. Be honest about what your vision is, what you want the result to be, and so that you can work together, and so you can understand exactly, both parties will understand exactly where this needs to go. Those are just a few things, a few tips, a few things I would say persons who are seeking to hire need to think of.
Thank you. And so that covered a lot of the editing, and I love it because we as authors are very sensitive. I remember the first time my pastor's wife looked at my manuscript and she asked me to shift a chapter or two and to rework some things. And she made a very important observation that I needed to insert something in it, which in hindsight, I'm glad I listened to her, because it could have affected my reputation adversely. But I didn't see that, because as you said, when you're seeing the work, after a while, you lose the objectivity and you don't see what you need to see. But in terms of, say, I go on Upwork or Fiverr and I see these different freelancers, what should I look for before hiring one of them?
Okay, you want to look at pricing because you have a budget and you want to see if it fits into your budget. Look at the reviews. These websites usually have reviews from persons with whom they have worked. Look at samples. Look at the type of material that they have worked with, if that is your genre, or what you have done, if you trust that person to do so, and that sort of thing. Those are just a few.
So don't forget to test. You can ask for a sample voiceover. Have them narrate a small portion of your book, because you want to know if their voice is right for your project, if their enunciation is right for your project. If it's the formatting as well, when looking at their work will help you, but more so for editing and proofing, you could ask them to edit the first 1,000 words or 1,500 words, and you pay them, and then you decide if you want to give them the full project. So that's my additional tip, in addition to the very valuable information that Tamara has shared. Now, in terms of timelines, and you've done several aspects of the publishing process. So let's take it a bit by bit. How long is the editing on average, depending on the type of editing? If you are formatting a book, how long is the process? I think that is important for the authors who are listening. If you can give an average and take it bit by bit in terms of the services that you offer.
Okay, well, that depends on the number of words, the number of pages, and so on. For 100 pages, that would be 7 to 10 days. This is for proofreading, though, not deep editing. You would get that, you can get a turnaround time, a delivery time of a week to a week and a half. And so it does depend on the type of book. If the book has more text, less graphics, that sort of thing. If it's a children's book versus content for adults, that sort of thing. So it is dependent on the number of words and the number of pages, the amount of graphics, and so on. For formatting, for me, I start at 7 days, because you want to give the author maybe different ideas of what they would like. And sometimes they're not quite sure yet until they see it in its entirety to know exactly how they want the layout to be done, and so on. Because formatting is not just about resizing and so on, it's the layout of each page, and you go page by page and so on. It is a 1-week delivery time generally. And all these Kamika are just starting points, though. As I said, it does depend on the length, the time, the graphics, the number of words, number of pages, and the needs of the author.
Awesome. That is so important. And I ask you for timelines because One of my pet peeves is that self-published authors rush the process. And so they want their books to be published in a month. Now, you may have heard about authors who are publishing a book a month, but they are not new. And they have a whole team. So they have a production line, and they have their timetable and things that they put out way in advance. And it's not like everything they give them at once. So you have to be careful. So even in the editing, there will be revision and rewriting. Expect that. So don't think that once you've written it and presented it to the editor that your work is done. Be prepared to rewrite. Yeah. I agree with Tammy, on average 5 to 7 days. If you want it earlier, then you're gonna have to pay express price and understand that you're not the only person that the freelancer is working with. So I appeal to authors to set realistic timelines, because especially with editing, the going back and forth and the formatting, it has to be proofed. So they may present the first draft to you in the first 5 to 7 days. The work is not done. You now have to go back through that, do what we call author correction notes, send it back to the formatter, and they have to keep fixing that. And that process, depending on how fast you go through the thing, can sometimes take another week or two, or it can be days. So the aim is for you to set realistic timelines and have proper expectations for the process. On average though, Tammy, you don't have to give us your price, but on average, what are we looking at in terms of costing for these services?
For a deep edit, publishing houses in particular will start at $7.50 per page for a substantive editing. For formatting, a book of about, let's say, 80 to 100 pages can start, and that is start, and because it's dependent, can start at, say, $85 US.
All right. So there you have it. You will find when you search the internet that very often it is done in word count. And at Bamboo Sparks, we use word count. And if you want to convert word count to pages, a page is about 300 to 350 words on average. So you can make the conversion there. So on average, if you're looking at word count, it's depending on who you're working with. Like for copy editing is between $10 and $25 per 1,000 words. This is US dollars we're talking now. And sometimes you will see the costing per word. You might see 0.08 cents per word. So we just want to give you an idea so you can navigate the space for developmental editing, which is the most expensive editing. You may hear it called structural editing. Some people call it content editing. And you hear Tammy saying deep editing. That is often done in many cases per hour.
Yes.
So sometimes you're looking at $30 to $50 per hour. It's the most important edit because it deals with the structure to see if everything is in place, the character, the plot, and for nonfiction, if the thing is flowing as it should to match the message and that kind of thing. This is not where you would make the red marks or the track changes. So we want you just to be aware of what you should look for in hiring. And as we close this interview, Tammy, what are some of the challenges perhaps you've had with authors, and maybe some tips you can give them to make the process of working with your freelancer smoother?
Okay, well, in terms of challenges, it's some of the challenges I thought about why I gave some of the earlier tips. For example, having that first conversation and be honest about where you are. Because I've had challenges with authors who, let's put it this way, I didn't know that they did not know certain things until I was, down in the process. Along in the process, and then I was like, oh, they never know. And so there was a lot of back and forth in terms of, okay, fix this. Oh, but I changed that. Oh, then you have to give them, in the middle of me editing, they were changing the writing. that sort of thing. Now you're the author, it's up to you to change what you want to change, but you have to let me know that it is at this stage, I'm not yet finished with certain things, or let's talk about it, along the way. I was looking at that paragraph, let's move it here, that sort of thing. You have to let me know, let the editors, proofreaders, whoever you're working with know where you are, right? You really have to do that. It's because for some people, there are some people who will help, say, okay, well, I gave you the cost already, I'll help you with it. But it isn't fair, and it wastes time. It should cost more. So let's just try to be fair to each other. So that's one of the challenges I have had. And it has to do with what you have said several times, is the unrealistic expectations. I've given the editor and that is it, I'm finished. No, remember, when you go in and you put in the corrections, some things get moved down, some things get moved across, other things, words, letters might be deleted, other typos might have taken place while you were correcting on one page, the layout, and that's why I do the layout last. But that sort of thing. So remember, as Kamika said, you still would have to have a proofreader at the end. It's not finished once you get an editor. So you have to have realistic expectations. And that is one of the major problems I think I have had, is the expectation and the assumptions that are made and the lack of information, not telling the editor what is going on, this is happening, this is how I'm feeling.
I feel your pain, Tammy. I feel your pain because like you, I have done every single part of this process. So I have done the cover design, I've done the formatting, I've done the editing, I have done the book description. I am capable of doing every single part of this process. And there are times I have multiple people working on my stuff, and then at the end, I still cringe that there was an error, because every time you correct something, let's deal with the typos. Every time you correct something, there is room for error. Even in my emails, I read it, but because I don't have the extra I, a word is missing, and it's not that you don't know better. And so you have to understand and come to the process with proper understanding. And listen, formatting also requires proofing, because very often when you begin to format the book to make it look like a book, that is when the author, it seems as if they're seeing it for the first time and they begin to rewrite, they shift, and it seems as if it's a never-ending process. I think you were the first person that said it to me. You cannot edit the manuscript to death. After a while, you have to get to a point where it's good enough, and you will frustrate, let me use this term, frustrate the hell out of your formatter and your editor. If you can't make up your mind, you can't keep rewriting, and then you expect that the cost is going to stay the same. So I just went on a rant, and we're having these things so that the publishing experience will be smoother as you work with the editors, formatters, or whomever you're working with. Have realistic expectations, communicate, and please do not rewrite the manuscript to death. So thank you so much, Tammy. As we close out, how can we get in touch with you? I know they can find you through Bamboo Sparks or Publishing Skills Center, but you work elsewhere. So where can we find you to get your services?
For right now, as I work on my website and so on as we speak, you can find me for now on WhatsApp, by phone, by email. So you can call 876-566-0446 and you will get me. You can WhatsApp me there. I do take phone calls, but if you don't get an answer, just shoot me a message and I'll get back to you in good time, and just let me know exactly what it's about. And you can email francistammy166@gmail.com. That's FrancisTammy166@gmail.com. I'm also on Fiverr and Upwork. On Fiverr, it's Annie F. On Upwork, it's Tamara Francis.
Thank you so much, Tamara. So there you have it, inviting you to come back this evening for the live Q&A session, where we're going to have children's book author Greta Malcolm and Dr. Sharma Taylor, who is a creative writing coach. She's won a number of book awards and a 2-book publishing deal. So you want to come and ask your questions. Day 2 is all about unleashing your creativity, and we are sharing with you the persons who can help you to do that. Remember, the interviews will be up for 48 hours, as well as the Q&A sessions. To gain access to the interview, we ask that you register, and then we're going to send you the access code, the password to watch the daily interviews. If you feel you're going to miss out on something, get the All Access Pass or join the Authorpreneur Secrets Academy, because this is one of our bonus offerings for those who join. And join the Facebook group in the Authorpreneurs to meet the author and ask their questions. This has been fun, and I look forward to seeing you in the live sessions. Ta for now, until next time.